Welcome back to Education. I am your host, Megs, and you are in for a solo episode today. So, last week, my guest was Sammy Social, and she was diving into social media strategy and ways to hack the algorithm, if you will. No, I'm just kidding. But, like, ways to get around it, recommendations she has, and ways to build a, thorough following that actually will pay dividends to your business, right? Not just the vanity metrics, which we'll get into in just a little bit. So it was incredible to hear from an expert, of course, because there's no better way to learn than from an expert. But I feel like when you're dealing with an expert such as she is looking at the whole picture, right? The whole social media. She's working for a plethora of creators, professionals, etc. So today I want to talk about my own experience with social media and just like navigating it as a brow artist, right? As a person who is using it for their business and not using it as a business itself, right? So it is a faucet of our business, not our entire business. Segue, I hope that my camera I feel like is like blurring a little bit and I'm using Riverside in a different way, so bear with me if there's any technical issues this time around. So my growth as a brow artist, I would say, am I an expert? No. Do I have a massive following? No, I do not. I have just over 3,000 followers, which is that something to scoff at? No, I'm very proud of my following and I'm very thankful for it. But when I lose followers, I don't care. And actually, it's something that I've grown to be happy about. So why is that? Why am I happy about losing followers? So I think a large portion of social media is really about perspective and working on your relationship with it, right? So it really depends on your goals, how you view social media, and kind of adapting yourself to view it in a healthy manner. I know that over the years I've ebbed and flowed from a really healthy relationship with social media to very unhealthy relationship with social media. It's been beneficial, it's been negative, and there's always going to be some sort of ebb and flow because the algorithm is ever changing, right? So it's an ever learning experience. Now, as somebody who considers herself a forever learner and does enjoy educating myself regularly, that is something I'm okay with. I'm okay with constantly learning when it comes to social media and all the different things that entail social media. Now, I, for the most part, have stuck to just Instagram. That's my bread and butter. That's where I have my following that I just mentioned. I am now dabbling in YouTube a little bit just for the sake of this podcast, and I have dabbled a little bit in TikTok. I haven't really messed with Facebook. I feel like it's a little bit antiquated. I do have auto posts because I have a business page on Instagram. I have to in turn have one on Facebook, but I'm not going to really be touching on Facebook. I don't really know what I'm talking about when it comes to Pinterest, and I certainly do not understand TikTok through and through. And I do truly believe that even though they're all umbrellaed under social media category, I think that they're all very, very different beasts and should be maybe approached differently. So I would say if I were to be really wanting to like tackle TikTok or tackle Pinterest or anything like that, I would seek out help because it's not my wheelhouse and it's not something I have a lot of experience in. Whereas I've been on Instagram longer than I've been in the industry. So I feel like even though Instagram is a completely new place than it was originally, I do feel more comfortable and confident there. So circling back to why I enjoy losing followers, I feel like the reason being is that I am weeding out the people that are not my people, right? The only people that I want following my social media are the people that are going to benefit from my content, people that I want to connect with, and maybe clients so that I can keep in touch with them. I want it to be a symbiotic relationship. If they're leaving my page for some reason, good, because it's become dyssymbiotic, whatever, the opposite of symbiotic. Our relationship isn't working anymore, right? So I'm okay with that. They can move on, they can stop following me, and it just will make room for the next person that will be following me for the right reasons. And I think that losing followers is almost like, in a way, you're finding what works and what doesn't, right? So even though you lost some, you probably gained some, and you're gaining the right ones. So it's just like a constant evolution of finding your people and weeding out the people that aren't your people. So even if you're a brow artist that is solely looking for clientele, the same rules apply. So if you're looking for new clients, you want to weed out the clients that aren't your clients, right? You want to only find people that are in your wheelhouse, the style of brows that you offer, the services that you offer. You're looking for a specific clientele, or at least I hope you are. Now, that's a marketing lesson, and we can get into that another time, but you should be, your entire branding, marketing, everything should be targeting somebody specific, a specific dream clientele or client specific. And that should be what you're targeting. So mine kind of varies, right? I'm targeting a dream client, but I'm also targeting a dream student, beauty professional, whatever. So my content's going to kind of ebb and flow. It's going to kind of go all over the place, but I'm okay with that because I'm learning and I'm figuring out what works. Another thing is, we get kind of stuck. And I think with social media, we get very attached to those vanity metrics that I mentioned a little bit ago. And I feel like it can kind of pigeonhole us and get us in this place where you're nervous to test things. But recently I had a coach and Sammy mentioned, like, trial and error is huge for any business, any marketing, any branding, anything, honestly. Like, we have to trial stuff in order to see what sticks, right? Throwing that pasta on the wall and seeing what works. That's what we're doing. So more recently, I've gotten more comfortable with testing. So what do I mean by that? And you can't test things and have everything pop off, right? It can't all go viral, or are you really testing anything? You've just figured it out at that point, right? If you're constantly posting and going viral and getting it, you're probably not listening to this podcast because you've dialed it down, right? I certainly have it. I've had a couple videos go viral recently, and I'm like, I have no idea why. I'm going to keep throwing that pasta at the wall and figuring out what works. Another thing I changed recently was not rushing the trending stuff. Trending audio, I feel like, is for creators and influencers. Like, they're trying to just pump out content, right? I don't want to do that. I actually had a conversation with the strategist, Sammy, who was on the last episode. And I was like, I can't do 5 posts a week, which was funny because now with the podcast, I do kind of do 5 to 6 a week. But like, the podcast is a very set pattern of what I post. And like, that does not alter because I do not have the bandwidth. My Eyebrow Goddess page does change because I'm trying to figure out what works, right? What is attracting students? What is attracting clients, etc. So I have recently switched to only wanting to provide valuable content. I don't want to make the trending audio stuff. I don't want to make silly stuff. I don't want clickbaity stuff. I just don't want to do it anymore. Am I going to use some of those lessons that I was taught to benefit me, and has it made me a better content creator? Absolutely. But I feel like we need to remember that anything that we're learning, and maybe like when I worked with Sammy, she gave me a very set, like, strict, not strict, she's not strict, that's a bad word, but she gave me an entire content plan, right, that I had to follow. I felt like it was kind of suffocating. Like, I felt like I mean, they worked. They totally worked. Her, like, she has it down. But I think we also have to remember about consistency. Consistency is super duper important for just showing up on social media and not letting your account basically die every other week because you're so burnt out from it. We want to be able to continue to post the same way we want to stay in the industry long term, right? We want longevity with it. So when we were working together, I was just like, I need to find some sort of balance that feels good enough that I can keep up with it. And I found that even if a trending audio over something stupid would pop off, it did nothing for me. Like, what I think that we need to return to ROI, return on investment. So is this investment monetary? No, but it is time consuming. So our time is extremely valuable, and I'm exchanging time for content. I have to create it. I have to make it. I have to make a caption. I have to edit it. I have to post it. I have to do all of the things, right, for the social media. So I'm exchanging my time and a lot of it for this content. So I need the ROI to be worth it. And I feel like we need to change at least for, I'm speaking specifically for the brow artist community, right? The beauty professional using social media as a tool for an established business. We need to have that conversation about just like what virality means and, ignoring vanity metrics. So I've said vanity metrics a couple times. So I want to dive into that a little bit. A vanity metric is going to be a like, a follow, sometimes a comment, just looking at these numbers on that scale. So we are comparing to influencers when we're doing that, right? We're comparing to million follower counts. We're comparing to thousands of comments and things like that. But we need to remember ROI. So I have had something go viral. I recently had a silly little, what was it? A threading video go viral. It got like 20,000 views. That's viral for me. Remember, I only have 3,000 followers. I do not post reels every single day. So this is kind of within my wheelhouse. That's a big uptick. It brought me nothing. I didn't make $1 off of it. I didn't make an appointment off of it. I might have gained a couple followers, but that doesn't really mean anything, right? We're talking about dollar return. We're talking about client intake. We're talking about, things like that. A new follower, cool. I'm not mad about it. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying I'm not grateful for some of these vanity metrics. It's still really cool and it feels good. But we have to remember, why am I making this content? For my business that has to earn money in order to stay afloat. So, but I had a reel that I posted that was another threading video. It only got 2,000 views or something like that, around that. And I sold a manual off of it. ROI, ding, ding, ding. We're making profit now. It means something. So just remember that those vanity metrics don't mean anything. Things that we should be paying attention to when we're looking at our analytics are things like shares, saves, and like heavy commenting. I feel like commenting is borderline gray area. I feel like it can lean either of which way, because sometimes I get a ton of comments that don't really mean anything. And then there's other times where you get like a lot of comments that are inquiries or things like that. But I will say a comment doesn't always lead anywhere. A DM might be a little bit more. But even like we get ghosted in the DMs, we get left in the DMs. So, I want profile clicks. I want outside clicks, like link clicks. I want sharing and saves and things like that. Those are the things that I'm looking for when I'm looking at my analytics. Those are important. Shares means that either your client thought it was valuable and wanted to share it, or another professional thought it was valuable and wanted to share it for their clients. Saves means that they loved that post and they want to save it for later. Maybe it's a tutorial on how to fill in the brows. Saves. Your clients are going to save that. They're going to want to see it again. They're going to want to watch it. And that in turn is going to boost your, placement in the algorithm, however you want to say it. So, these are the things we need to kind of change. And then I feel like when we're talking about vanity metrics, we're also the same kind of arena would be comparisonitis. I think Sammy called it, which I love it. It is such a nasty beast, and I feel it all the time. One trick that I had heard a while back was to unfollow anyone in your industry, anyone doing the same thing as you. And I think that is so valuable. I don't at this point. I love following other brow artists and I love seeing what they do. But I will say that one thing it does is hinder me in my content creation. I feel like you're copying people, or you see something and you're like, oh, I was going to make that and never got around to it and they already made it, so now I can't. Bullshit. Make it with your own unique spin. Do not copy people. But do things in your own way. Like, I just feel like there's so many ways to remain unique, and we're all creatives, right? We're in a creative field. We can be creative. But if you are feeling like, oh my God, this audio is trending right now, I need to use it before it stops trending, don't make the post for that reason. Don't make a post in a crunch. Don't make things because you feel like you have to. None of that content is going to perform. Also, I feel like when we get so hyper specific, I've spent like hours editing something and adding in all the text and the correct audio and all the links and the keywords and the, whatever, trying to gain the work in the algorithm god's favor and, blow up on Instagram, and it gets 500 likes or no 500 views or something, 200 views, something shitty, and you're like, fuck, I just spent so much of my time, valuable time at that, for nothing. Then I've also taken a B-roll video that I filmed on a tripod while I was working in the studio, and it blow up and get tons of likes and views and whatever. That was the one of me threading my chin, you guys. I'm threading my chin, and I smacked myself in the face with a thread, and all I did was a voiceover, and that was what got, I think, 14,000 views recently. So it's just never what you think it's going to be, and the more you put pressure on yourself, the less fun it is, the less likely you're able to stay consistent with it. And I just think that we need to change our viewpoint and our expectations and what we're looking for. I know I needed to, and it made a big difference. And I think we also need to remember that follower count does not, because I have 3,000 followers, I don't have 3,000 clients. I couldn't see 3,000 clients, but there's also, what do you want out of it? I'm not necessarily in the Instagram game to gain clients, right? Is it beneficial? Do clients come to me because they see my Instagram and I'm an educator and they're like, oh, she's educating other professionals, I want to go to her, she knows what she's talking about? Yeah, I have that benefit for sure. But I could probably gain more clients if I targeted clients with my content, right? Tutorials, explaining why you use products, explaining what services are, explaining why I choose threading over waxing, explaining where I'm at, how to book with me, tutorials like I mentioned, or behind the scenes, more about me so that they feel more comfortable with me. There's so many I could go on and on and on about what to post for clients, and I would probably gain more clients that way, right? But my goal with social media is a different level of growth. I'm at a different stage in my business. The level of growth that I'm looking for is students. And, I want people going to my manuals, my courses soon to be coming out, to my podcast. This is my goal. So that's where I'm kind of going with my growth. So that's why my content is targeted in that way. Does that mean I stop posting for clients? No, because even if I'm not looking for clients, I still have to make posts relevant to a brow artist client, because, yes, you guessed it, a brow artist might share that or save that in order to share it with her clients or their clients. So you just have to be more strategic and methodical with it. I mean, at the end of the day, this is a really important part of our business. Social media is not going anywhere. Our relationship to social media is not changing. And we just have to get with it. And I fought it for a while. And the other thing that's really tricky, especially if you're a solopreneur, if you're in a team, I think things are different. If you work for a company, things might be different. But I still think that even if you're working for a chain or franchise or whatever, you should have your own social media in your own following, because whenever you decide to go out on your own, if you choose to, you want people to follow you in that way and have that route to follow you, like, seamlessly. So social media, no matter what stage you are, is super important. I feel like I wish that when I was less busy, I put way more fucking time into my social media. I wish I would have driven it home when I had more time, because now I'm booked and busy, right? I'm doing all the things that I was wanting to do when I first started, and I think that I could have gotten to some of them a little bit quicker had I focused on social media. Now, that's not to say that the focus that I gave it didn't help me. It did. But because of what I saw it helped me do, I wish that I had done more, because it would have helped me more, right? And I also think that this is something we regularly have to audit. What do I mean by audit? This is taking stock. Now, I'm not talking about just your analytics, but what do you want? Because when I first started, I wanted something different than now, right? So I had to audit and regroup and figure out how to target a professional instead of a client, which was a huge learning curve. I had no idea what I was doing, and I didn't know how to talk to other professionals, because that's not what I'd been doing on social media this whole time, right? I was gaining clients. I was looking for clients. So regularly checking in, seeing what works, and making sure that it all feels good. That's the other thing that's changed recently. I just want to post when it feels good. And I feel like it's really weird, and maybe this is woo-woo, but when I'm posting from a place that I'm not stoked with, I'm not happy with what I'm putting out, I don't really care, that's what I get in return. That's what I feel back. If I'm putting out content that I don't feel good about, I'm not super stoked, I'm not getting a good return on it, right? Or if I'm just posting to post, I'm not getting a good return on it. So what's the purpose, right? I'd rather miss a week of posting in order to, like, gear up for something better, than to post just to post. So, yeah, I feel like just incorporating information is just what you need and focusing on what you want out of it. If you have no goal, you're going in blind and it's very difficult. So, make sure you have a goal. Make sure you know why you're doing it. And also, now what are some goals? What are some goals? If you're like, I don't even fucking know, girl, what is my goal? Well, if you're new, your goal is clients, right? So, like I said, tutorials, how to fill in their brows. If you sell any level of retail, you should have a reel, a carousel, and maybe a post about every single product you carry. So a tutorial could be your reel, walking through why the product is beneficial could be a reel. That could also be a carousel. How to use it could be a carousel or a reel. Why you carry it, why you like the product. I could go on and on, but every single one of your retail items should be somewhere in your feed. And then if you get a DM about something or somebody asking questions, you can direct them to that reel. It's going to help them see what you have to offer. Also, same can be said about your service menu. You should have something explaining every single service that you offer, some way, shape, or form on your social media. How to book with you should be on there. All of the appropriate links, how to find you, all of those things should be on there. Policies could be something else. There's so many things, but just knowing why you're posting is a really important part. Ignoring vanity metrics. That is something that I'll forever be learning. It's very difficult. It's overwhelming and it's hard to ignore those numbers, but just remember to circle back to ROI. What is the return on investment? If it's not there, that number doesn't matter. If it's never helped, it really doesn't matter. Also, be kind to yourself. One thing I realized when I was like, because we've all gone through it. I wanted to go viral. I want to pop off out of nowhere. It's scary. I don't want to, because the mean dogs bark the loudest. That's how I'm going to say it. You're going to get haters in the comments a lot quicker than you're going to get love in the comments. So just remember that and ignore the haters because it's not about you. They're not posting because of you. They're not arguing. People who just want to argue online are not the people that you need to be concerning yourself with. Also, another thing I feel like I always talk about showing your face and showing up as yourself, but I do think there's a very fine line between being real and trying to be very transparent and real on your social media and retaining a professional image. So you can show yourself and you can be real, you can curse, you can do your thing and show outside of the studio space, but just remember this is a business. This is your forward-facing view. If anything you're posting would cause you to be embarrassed if a client randomly pulled it up or talked about it, shouldn't be on your feed. Shouldn't be on your feed. So keep that in mind. This is, even if you have 4 followers, at some point, stuff on the internet never dies. We've seen that with influencers and celebrities. They do some messed up tweet or whatever back in the day. It's going to resurface at some point. So just make sure that you are being appropriate online and that nothing that you post is going to come back to bite you in the ass later. We can have strong opinions and we can also come back and disagree with the post that you've done later. That's the one thing. But I think that that's a whole different ballgame between being rude, inappropriate, or, whatever, unprofessional wise. That's not something I want to die on my social media presence or my online presence. Education for your clients is super big. People want to when you're dealing with social media, people want to learn something, be entertained, and something visually, aesthetically pleasing. Those are just kind of the nature of the beast. I think aesthetics matters a little bit more on Instagram than it does on TikTok. Maybe that's what makes or breaks your decision. I also feel like as somebody, a solopreneur like me, I do not have the bandwidth to do more than one social media. I just don't. So Instagram's where I focus. But maybe if I didn't want it to be as clean cut, maybe TikTok would be the place that I focus because it's a little bit messier and a little less curated. So finding what works for you is also super important, and then just in, dive in and do it all. Go for it and really put your heart and soul in it. Um, Building a routine for consistency. I fought this so much when I first started because I don't like routine. I'm ADHD. I'm a solopreneur. I want to just do things when I want to do them. But routine is really helpful. So I like to at least have a plan for the like 2 weeks worth of social media at any given time. And something I've been recently implementing is doing sets. So I aim for 3 posts on my eyebrow goddess page, and now I'm trying to work on having them all kind of correlate. So I'm not like, say 1 week I'm just going to post about tinting. I want it to be like 3 posts about tinting some way. That makes it easier for me. I only have to focus on one topic, and then I can really dive into it. So maybe the first one will be like application. Second one could be tints that I love. Third one could be aftercare for tinting. Boom. There's 3 forms of content that you can curate in however which way you want. I do feel like the thing I've been focusing on lately has been reels and carousels. I know this will change, but that's the feedback and what has been working for me most and getting the best views currently. Now, this will die. I'm sure this advice will die in a couple months or whatever, but that's what's working now. So I wanted to share that. I also think stories are super duper important. Stories are what connects you to your followers that you already have. Reels are going to connect you to new followers. And I think carousels kind of tend to fit somewhere in between. They tend to do better than a stagnant post on your feed, as far as getting in front of as many people as possible. So connecting with your followers is going to be where you show inklings of yourself behind the scenes. This is where sales can happen as far as like online appointments and different things like that. And just kind of like showing little bits. Stories are originally designed to kind of like a day in a life with me kind of a thing. So I feel like just kind of bringing people along is good. One thing I heard from a social media expert, I think her name is Julia. I don't remember her Instagram handle. If I find it, I'll add it to here. But this is not my idea. But she said that one of the good things to do is to let your stories die on one day, which sounds weird, but it's basically letting them expire. So like on Sundays, I don't like to post on my stories. I like to let them all expire. And then on Monday, you can start fresh and kind of like dive into maybe your topic of the week, or at least like diving into your day and kind of kickstarting the week of content and being more active on your stories. I also feel like having some sort of routine and check-in and plan helps avoid burnout. Burnout is really, really hard with social media, and I do feel like, I don't know, I don't want to say it's inevitable and hard to avoid, but I do feel like, you have to really actively work to avoid it. So I like having a plan just because it helps me feel consistent and on it and not overwhelmed. For a while, I would just like try to post the day of and figure it all out the day of, and it was so overwhelming. So I like to at least have a couple days before I'm supposed to post and have like at least most of the content done. I also really like taking long form video in my studio and then cutting it up and using it in that way, and then just having random like B-roll footage in my drafts that I can utilize. That makes things a little bit easier and less overwhelming just to have stock. So always liking to have like a good amount of content built up so that I have stuff to use and not feel overwhelmed that I run out and I have to like make a bunch of stuff or film a bunch of stuff, record a bunch of stuff for that week. So always having a build up going into the week and not having to make it all the week of. Also, another big thing for those of you still looking for clients, showing up as yourself is going to be a really good way for your client to feel like they know you before they come in. So it's going to build trust even before you've earned the trust, essentially. So I feel like I have clients that have never seen me before, and they walk into my studio space and they look right at me and they're like, oh, I'm here for her. Because I've shown my face on social media and I'm very adamant about showing my face, my personality. I talk on there, so they're not going to be like surprised by what my voice sounds like or surprised by what I look like or anything like that. I just feel like it's really nice to not have to follow some like business. Like I want them to follow me as a person and then like feel more comfortable when they come in and chat with me and everything like that. So those are my tips. If you guys have any questions, my DMs are always open. Now we're going to move to the ingredient corner. And today I'm going to talk about hydrogen peroxide. Now, if you do lamination or lash lifts, you may be familiar with this one, or just in general, hydrogen peroxide is kind of a common ingredient in anyone's household, I would assume, for first aid. But it's also used as a neutralizer when we're doing chemical treatments. So let's dive in. We are using my tried and true Milady dictionary. You know, I love this little lady. So I'm just going to read straight from it. And then I'm going to tell you a little bit about my feelings and opinions on hydrogen peroxide. So hydrogen peroxide is a bleaching and oxidizing agent, detergent, and antiseptic. Antiseptic is probably where most of us have heard it from. It is generally recognized as a safe preservative, germ killer, and skin bleacher in cosmetics. If used undiluted, it can cause burns to the skin and mucous membranes. Very, very, very good to know. So we know that when we're doing chemical treatments, it's definitely not used in, it's not undiluted, right? It's very diluted. It's in a mix with things, and the hydrogen peroxide is neutralizing our thioglycolic acid or cysteamine. But I do love the fact that it mentions bleaching agent, because hydrogen peroxide, as we know, I think, also just like peroxide in general, we know is bleaching. Like benzyl peroxide can cause, bleaching to our pillowcases and our towels and things like that when we're using it on our skin. Hydrogen peroxide is also a bleaching agent to the skin, and I think that it's also something that can affect the hair color. So just keep that in mind, and I think that's when we see a little bit of discoloration when it comes to chemical treatments. That is one of the reasons. It also can be drying, so that's why we have to be conscientious of the amount of time we're leaving solution number 2 on for, is we do not want to dehydrate or dry out the skin or hairs any further. Also, I think it's kind of a cool benefit that it is a germ killer. I completely forgot about that because I'm so used to thinking about it in the chemical reaction world as far as brow lamination goes and things like that. But it's kind of nice to know that I have no idea how that popped up. If you're not on video, thumbs up randomly popped up because I had my thumbs up. Anyways, good to know, because as we know, when we're doing chemical treatments and the clients aren't getting their skin wet and they're not washing their face and things like that, it's kind of nice to know that there was a little bit of a germ killer reaction going across the skin when they're not able to cleanse their face for 24 hours. So hydrogen peroxide, y'all. You're probably already using it in your studio, whether you know it or not, or at least in your home for first aid. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have any questions about social media, make sure to reach out to me and DM me online. You can catch the podcast at Browducation. Me, I run both of them, but me also at the.eyebrow.goddess. And we will see you next Thursday.